Now I'm going to show you how you can easily use any existing baseball or softball field in the world to make a few changes and adjustments to it and use it to play BetaBall. Either simple BetaBall, where you only require a throwing arc in the outfield, and perhaps you can use an invisible running path, a swath for each runner, because during a defensive point play the runner has the domain over this 10-foot wide, 12-foot wide swath. All of the fielders have to avoid this swath, because if the runner is able to touch another fielder or touch the ball while running his swath around all of the bases to touch home plate, then if he touches the ball or touches the player, then the defensive point is void and the runner is awarded home plate, and he successfully avoids a defensive point. And the other thing is the actual home plate. You have the option of changing that or not changing that. I'll show you how to do both. First, to utilize a new home plate to replace an existing standard baseball plate that's 17 inches wide and 8.5 inches high on the sides. And then it has a 90-degree angle triangle vector there. Okay, for that, and then I'll show you how to put into the ground various markers that will depict the throwing arc in the outfield. And you determine the length of that arc. The distance from the arc to the home plate will vary according to the player's age and skill level. From maybe 270 feet at the pro level, semi-pro level, down to maybe 200 or 180 feet from home plate for Little League ball, it's such. Okay, let me explain these two for you. For the home plate, simply go to a local department store, local hardware store or building supply store, and buy a rubber doormat, 4 feet by 3 feet. Then you take a box cutter and you cut it in half here, and you cut it in half here. And then on this end you make a vector with a 90-degree angle here, and that's for standard baseball. In a standard baseball field, the home base has a 90-degree vector because this vector extends out to become the foul lines, right out to the outfield poles. In the game we'll produce called BetaBall 7s, we reduce the size of the field to a 70-degree vector, and so this triangle is quite just somewhat different. So now that you've cut up the doormat that you've bought, about $10 or $12, $13, you purchase some tape, some excellent tarp tape, and you'll take these and you'll, on the other side, and you'll use the tarp plate here to join these two pieces together, so now they flip open and flip back. So now for baseball, for BetaBall, this will be your standard home plate. 18.5 inches wide by 17 inches sidebar, and then you have the lower triangle. So when you would use this during normal play, normal regular baseball rules, but when the 40 or 60 times a game that a defensive point opportunity comes up, when there's a fresh batter and the bases are empty, in those occasions a defensive point is possible. When the umpire sees that a defensive point is underway, the batter has struck out, he's lined out, ground out off to first, the umpire will have sufficient time to open up the home plate, and now you have a 34-inch long home plate, so that the catcher will own the top of the home plate, where the runner will own the bottom of the home plate. And in BetaBall, there's no tagging at the plate, there's only touching the plate, and this is to avoid injury that they normally occur with normal baseball plate when the catcher and the runner will collide. Okay, so that's how you can make a pair of home plates. Now if you're using, for example, plywood or a rubber base that's a little thicker than this, you might want to join the two together with a piano hinge. Again, available at any local hardware store or supply store. Okay, now that's the home plate. Now the throwing arc in the outfield. Instead of painting a permanent marking line, a yellow line in the outfield, what it's possible to do is go to that same local hardware or supply store and buy a couple of dozen of these foam paintbrushes here. And you then take some fluorescent paper and you put the paper over the foam and you staple it here, and this is a wood base, and you just plant this into the outfield grass. But as you see, the top of the brush is very flexible. So when a runner, an outfielder running for a fly ball or a ball, he touches the marker on the throwing arc, he's not going to stumble. Okay, so basically all you do is you'll take a piece of paper about 4 inches by 5 inches or 6 inches. You'll put this flush flag in and just staple it. Do that 20 times and now you have 20 markers to indicate a throwing arc in the outfield. At the end of the game or at the end of the day that you've been working with BetaBall, you just take these off and store them for the next practice that you might have. The alternative to that is just to take a spray paint and spray the foam whatever color you want, a fluorescent color. Okay, so that gives us the start, all of the changes you need in a regular baseball or softball field. Just some indicator of where the throwing arc is and another home plate. The purpose of the throwing arc is that during a defensive point, all of the outfielders must go out beyond this throwing line because they catch and throw and catch and throw, and the final throw from the outfielder to the catcher, that has to take place behind this throwing arc. Okay, so for about $30 or $40 worth of material and an hour of your time, you can prepare all of the materials needed to adapt an existing baseball or softball field to BetaBall. Enjoy.